Which of these guys would you take to start a franchise? Because that's been the topic here. Taking a young quarterback to pick up a franchise. You got Dak, you got Wentz, you got Darnold, you got Kyler Murray. So let me bring it to my group here. Dominique, at the risk of asking an obvious question because of your affinity for Dak Prescott, if you were to vote on my poll, and I hope that you did, which of those quarterbacks would you take?
Yeah, I'd take Dak. I love Kyler Murray. I think that he is on the rise, but he hasn't shown the consistency and the health, frankly, that Dak has shown. So I take Dak out of all of those guys that you put up there. But I think Kyler Murray's on the rise. If he could put together a great season, a full great season, and his intermediate passing, I think, needed some help. So Kyler has some growing to do. If he can become as consistent as Dak, then maybe Kyler Murray. I think his ceiling is higher. But right now, of all those guys, Dak is the most trustworthy.
Okay, let me come to you on this. And Rob Ninkovich, if you were casting a vote in my poll question today, who would you pick?
I'm going with Kyler just because, look, if you go on what I was saying earlier, as a defender, I know how hard it is to stop quarterbacks that could move and get out of the pocket and run and do all the things that Kyler Murray can do well. I mean, look how fast he is right here. He's faster than everybody else on the football field. So, look, when I think about moving forward in the NFL and how the NFL offenses have changed and will continue to change, I think a guy like Kyler makes the most sense. I like Dak, but when I think about continuing to evolve an offense that's going to be multi-dimensional and the RPO and the run-pass option things that really make defenses go crazy, I'm going with Kyler.
Field Yates, your pick.
Yeah, we might as well just keep this going, keep the Kyler love fest going here, Greeny, because Kyler Murray, I think, is the obvious answer in this poll. I just think that the player who has so much upside, look back to his college years, became just the second quarterback in FBS history to rush for 1,000 yards in a single season, while also for throwing for at least 4,000 yards. So I think there's a chance for, as I mentioned earlier, the Cardinals to kind of unleash Kyler as a runner. Now, I know they want to be protective because he is their franchise, but Kyler Murray, with a few more design runs, could really take this offense to the next level. And oh, by the way, this year, he has DeAndre Hopkins as #1 wide receiver, a better offensive line, a better receiving core around him. They drafted 3 rookies in 2019 who should be much better. I think the sky is the limit for Kyler Murray as soon as this year. And that division is loaded, but Arizona is going to at least make some noise for a potential wild card spot this season. That is a team that's generating all sorts of buzz as we are now on the dawn of training camp.
All right, I'm not going to try and argue against Kyler Murray because you have to admit sometimes in life when you were wrong, and I was dead wrong on him. I did not project him to the NFL to be anything close to what he obviously looks like he's going to be. But let's talk about the two guys whose names didn't even come up in there. Rob Ninkovich, let's start with Carson Wentz. I have multiple people, including me on this show, who have projected him to be the MVP of the league this coming season. Why no love for Carson Wentz?
Look, he's a good quarterback. I just think that he's been hurt a lot, and it's unfortunate for him. I know it's not his fault that he had to deal with an ACL and he's dealt with the back issues, but when you can't be on the field, it doesn't help your team. So when I'm thinking about building a team or a roster, you want to have guys that are durable, that you can count on week in and week out. So he unfortunately has dealt with injuries, and that's my reason that he's not the guy that I'm going with. Those injuries, it's unfortunate that he's dealt with those.
And then Dominique, if only because I can try and make you feel guilty, I'm looking here at texts from my son, Sam, and my daughter, Darnold, and they're both devastated that no one is picking the quarterback of the Jets and giving him any love. What are your thoughts on his positioning in this poll?
First of all, you should have named your daughter Sam and your son Darnold. But that's a whole nother thing.
Flip the coin, Dominic. It could go either way. It was the beauty of the names.
It doesn't matter. But I do think that we haven't seen the best of Sam Darnold because of his situation. And if we haven't seen you play like outstanding lights-out football, which we've seen many of the guys on this list do that, including Carson Wentz, we haven't seen Sam Darnold do that on anywhere close to a consistent basis. And maybe you can blame the infrastructure, but that is the situation that we're in now. We're projecting what we think Sam Darnold can be. We've already seen what Dak can be. We've seen what Carson can be, and we've seen enough, I think, in one season of Kyler Murray to project him going forward. I think Sam might be the last person I pick out of that group.
What is the projection on Sam Darnold going forward? Again, I know that I'm hopelessly biased on this, but if you watch him, he has so much talent, and I think has been in by so far the worst situation of all of them. And then you factor in the fact that he had a disease last year. He had mononucleosis that cost him a beginning of the season. I think he was not fully healthy for the first half of the year. Field, what is the projection in your view of Darnold going forward?
Well, I just think that this is the year that we figure it out, Greeny, because as Neek mentioned, the supporting cast has been poor around him during his first 2 seasons. You mentioned the mono last year. I think the projection in the eyes of people around football is this guy has a chance to establish himself as the second best quarterback from the 2018 draft class. I think Lamar Jackson has kind of set himself head and shoulders above the rest of the 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first round. But beyond that is that eventually at some point, we no longer talk about quarterbacks and say the supporting cast around them is no good. Carson Wentz was the rising tide last year for Philadelphia that floated them all the way to a playoff game. If Sam Darnold's going to be the truth, and I think he has a very good chance to become that, he has to make all the players around him better to a point that we say, wow, are those guys that good, or is Sam Darnold that great?
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.